We are live this morning. These weeks always throw me off. It's Wednesday morning, September 3rd. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. We are on episode 48, and this episode is being recorded live on Substack. For everyone new here who follows Representative Jasmine Crockett, I'm Maritza Giorgio, my co-host, former Senator John Tester of Montana, and we are joined live today by Representative Crockett of Texas. She serves on the House Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee. I think, too, I'm going to just say it, I think that you are the member of Congress who's most likely to be brutally honest with us, Representative Crockett.
Yes, painfully honest. Yes.
We like it. That's how John Tester is, too, sometimes.
No, never. I'm always hedging a little bit. Hey, it's good to have you on, Jasmine. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got committee meetings coming up, and you're going to be at them here shortly. But we appreciate you being on. And I don't know if you know this, but Maritza got laid off the same time I got laid off. She got laid off from Scripps News. I got laid off from the U.S. Senate. She's not very happy about it. I couldn't be happier watching the shit show in Washington, D.C. But that aside, I'm going to let Maritza start because I got so damn many questions to ask you. First of all, I got.
He's going to be. Yeah. Here you go.
Do you think about how you're going to rip people's faces off before you rip them off, or does it just come natural to you?
I don't know that it comes natural, but I will say that I have been trained to rip people's heads off. I tell people all the time, we obviously all come in with our own experiences. Obviously, as someone who served on the ad committee, I did not come in with maybe some of the experience that you came in with. Obviously, I had not worked on a farm or had my own farm or anything like that, but I had worked in the courtrooms. And so I know a liar. I know how to cross-examine criminals. I know all the things, right? And so literally in DC, there's lots of liars and criminals. So I am very well prepared to do this job because, I've worked with criminals for a very long time. So definitely that. And then people don't understand being a litigator, being a successful litigator means that you are very able to kind of switch it up in the moment. So when somebody throws you off, you don't get thrown off. You're able to keep up. And a lot of times in the House and the Senate, you are so prepared that sometimes you're over prepared, right? People have worked hours and hours to make sure that you've got your line of questioning. And then it goes a completely different kind of way. And so definitely my courtroom training has helped me to be able to kind of stay on my toes.
Okay, I'm going to pull on that thread. I'm going to piggyback because I was going to save this question for later. But you had a series of words strung together. It's called your B6 phrase. Remember what that was?
Yes.
Senator,
it is trademarked.
Senator, do you know what B6 is, Senator?
It's a square on a bingo board. No, I don't know what B6 is.
Representative?
It is bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Also known as Marjorie Taylor Greene. But yes.
Okay. So when you said that, was that in your brain already? Had you said that in your brain, or that just came out?
No, I'm not that good. That is
okay.
For sure. We were going through some procedural drama, so to speak, where she was really supposed to be kicked out of committee. And there was an agreement that she would apologize and then we would go forward and whatever. And then she just started popping off. She's like, I ain't apologizing. I was like, well, she got to go. And then they were like, well, we need the vote. And so I was so upset. So I sat there and I actually said one day I'm going to post the notes because my staff still has the note where literally I raised my hand and I looked over and I'm writing down at the same time, waiting on Comer to acknowledge me because we could not go on to the next thing until I asked my procedural question. And so, it fell within the rules. I never called her name. And so it wasn't
right.
Personalities.
Right.
But, I wanted him to see how quickly this could really devolve into chaos. And this is why we have rules, is so that there won't be this devolution. But also, I needed to show Marjorie, girl, I'm way smarter than you. Like, we are in completely different leagues. Like, let's not do this. Like, let's not. If you want to trade insults, mine will be cuter. Okay? Like, let's not do it.
Okay, so we have a lot. I mean, you have so many stories that we both want to ask you about, but I do we also cover headlines here on this show, and there are a lot of headlines that happened late last night, and they're going to spill over into today and probably for months. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The House was back in session one day after summer break. They left early, trying to get rid of the Epstein stink. And the House Oversight Committee released tens of thousands of pages of files related to Epstein yesterday, but many are already in the public domain. So from where you're sitting, you're on this committee. Tell us what we need to know about these files, the release, what's happening with Epstein.
It's a game right now. I mean, it's what the Republicans have been doing. It's just been like this big game. So first of all, they now want to pretend as if they are the transparency warriors, right? But I am old enough to remember that literally the Speaker of the House was like, I am shutting down the House so that we don't take a vote on the release of the Epstein files, right? But what he didn't anticipate, and this is actually something that no one has really tapped into. There is one subcommittee in the entire Congress, as we are in our anti-DEI life. Okay, I just want to be clear. There is one subcommittee in Congress that is all African American. Every single member is an African American. And do you know which subcommittee was the one that pushed forward and outsmarted the entire GOP as they literally shut the House down? The one that is made up of people that truly MAGA and so many far right Republicans believe have some sort of mental deficit, as the president loves to call people of color low IQ, especially if they are women. But the all African American subcommittee is the one that procedurally pushed forward with a vote on the Epstein files and was absolutely able to get it before we got out, because they outsmarted the entire Republican GOP. So mad love to my colleagues on the Oversight Committee and the leadership of Robert Garcia, who's now our ranker, as well as Summer Lee, who leads that subcommittee.
Okay,
so what's the name of the subcommittee?
It's, you would ask me this. Law Enforcement Subcommittee on, I'm not on that one.
Okay, all right. That's cool. I'm just curious.
It's a new one. It's a newly created one, so it's not one of our normal standing subcommittees. Kind of like we have the Doge subcommittee that was newly created in bootleg. So I forget what they called it. It's subcommittee on law enforcement.
It's okay. It's a subcommittee off the judiciary, though?
Off of oversight.
Oversight.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay, so there's more to this, though, because Representative Thomas Massie, he's been all over. He filed this petition to force a vote that would force the DOJ to release the investigative files related to Epstein. So he needs 216 more House members to sign it. He says he thinks he'll get enough votes for a floor vote, but now the White House is starting this pressure campaign to get any GOP co-sponsors to back off. They actually said it would be viewed as a, quote, very hostile act to the administration if Republicans sign this. So what do you think? I mean, are they we see MTG, we see Nancy Mace, we see Lauren Boebert saying they're going to back this Massey measure. Do you think they will? Or you think they're going to cave?
It's yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. So, yes. So we have a discharge petition. And for everyone that is listening or watching, the way that this works is normally the way that a bill comes to the floor in the House is that it goes through a markup in committee and then it's put on the floor. And so it's been voted out of committee, or sometimes it's just a matter of they'll just put it on the floor. They'll send it through the Rules Committee and they'll get what they need so that they can put it on the floor. But the speaker really has a lot of power, right? And being able to dictate what ends up hitting the floor and what doesn't. So for everyone that is very upset with the Democrats about various legislation that's not hit the floor, just know we don't control the House. The speaker does, who is a Republican, who at this point in time doesn't want to put forth those like really good bills. Okay, so there is a mechanism in the House that's called a discharge petition, so that basically the body can override the speaker in a way by being like, listen, this is what we want to see on the floor. And so you may not want to put it there, but there's at least a majority of us that do. And so when you get over 216 signatures, then it is good to go. And there's a lot of other steps. So basically, this thing only became ripe to the point that we could actually sign off on it on yesterday. Yesterday at 2 p.m. is when we could first sign off on this. So it's not like it happens in a day, okay? Usually about 30 days. So we started signing. I stayed late yesterday so that I could sign because there was this long line. So I stayed after votes. There was a long line of us that stayed and signed. So I don't know what number I was, but I was over 100. So I may have been like 150 or something like that. There are other Democrats that had to get to things, so they didn't sign. But if every Democrat signs and then just a few Republicans sign, and this is why the White House is now freaking out because this thing looks like it is going to be ripe for a vote on the floor. Now, here it is. We were asked by reporters, oh, well, the speaker is concerned about, first of all, he said that there was no need to do it because we've already got the oversight subpoenas. And then he said, well, I'm concerned that this will not protect the identity of survivors. And so now he is like the big champion for survivors. Nevertheless, I'm like, we have mechanisms, Mr. Speaker, if you weren't aware. If you feel as if there is a piece of legislation that is flawed, we have this thing called an amendment. I mean, like, clean it up, right? Like, just clean it up. But that's not what they want to do. And I think all people, whether you are American, whether you are not, should look at the White House's response, and it tells you everything that you need to know. And the reason that I say whether you're American or not is because it was made very clear to us yesterday after our roundtable that this isn't just levels of corruption at the highest levels of the US government, but there is absolute implication in foreign governments as well. And so we already kind of had an idea that foreign government was involved in some way because we knew what happened with Prince Andrew, but like the full extent, and I still feel like we don't know the full extent, but we were given a bit of a briefing that implicated specific other governments that have nothing to do with the prince. So this is something that the American people, I think, need to know in general, simply because the DOJ, as far as I'm concerned, never finished the job. They never finished doing the investigation, which is one of the reasons that I've been very vocal on. If you have information, come forward, because whatever files we're getting, that is part of an investigation to where they were collected. But if there's certain things that people never went out to collect or investigations that were not completed, then there's still more to be had. And in speaking to these survivors, I know all of the world tuned in for Diddy, right? Like everybody was like watching the Diddy trial, right? Like what's happening with Diddy? And, they brought a RICO case and literally just had Diddy, right? Like there was nobody else they charged, which meant it probably was going to be a little problematic. They didn't even have anybody like, yeah, you could have been charged, but like we decided to give you immunity or whatever. So the RICO case looked kind of whimsy, right? And ultimately it was wimpy, and he obviously didn't get RICO. But if there was ever a RICO case that I saw, it is this. Whether we're talking about the banks, we know that JP Morgan Chase ended up paying out a ton of money, whether we're talking about the accountants, the lawyers, and literally finding out that he consistently set up like these sham corporations and organizations, and like hearing stories about, man, like when I tell you it was wild. There's one story that really sticks with me, and I want to make sure that I respect her privacy because we did have one survivor who has not come out publicly, but her story is insane. And I don't want to tell the story because I don't want it to potentially get out about her until she's okay, or until I get absolute clearance on telling the story. But when I tell you that even when he was incarcerated in 2008, he still was doing stuff like while incarcerated. Like that's how deep it goes because of the collusion and cooperation of whether it was people that are in law enforcement at the highest levels, the lowest levels. It is really, really deep. And there are other people that need to be charged for sure. So again, I just encourage anybody that, knew of somebody that worked for Epstein, knew of anybody that dealt with Maxwell, like to come forward. And definitely the House Democratic Caucus, we will do everything that we can to make sure that we respect your privacy and your safety. And the final thing that I'll say, because there was so much, um, people sometimes don't understand, well, how can you get caught up in this? And how does this happen? Right. And I just want to kind of deal with that head on. As somebody who did criminal defense, I always was on the defense side of these kind of cases. But when I tell you that the level of grooming that Maxwell engaged in was like next level, like crazy, she would literally like watch these girls and would have people overhearing them. And you had these survivors where some of them had never heard each other's story, but their stories were so similar. So they had an actual scheme of what they did, right? And so it was typically some young girl who was looking for extra cash. And then they would approach them because it may be young girls talking about like, we need to get a job or like, what can we do over the summer or something like that. And then someone would approach and say, hey, you can make $300 and we'll teach you how to massage this very rich businessman, right? So they take them to the mansion and it would not be sex at the beginning. Like it would legitimately be like a massage. And then it would turn into, oh, can you take off more clothes and, that kind of stuff. And then they would be sucked in. And by this time, they would have learned their vulnerabilities. So one of the survivors talked about how um, her mother was diagnosed with cancer and it was terminal. She had brain cancer. And because of all the pictures and all the things that they put up, there's pictures with all of these powerful people. And there's like medical information, that kind of stuff. She was telling us about how he had some kind of brain and all kinds of things in this home. And so she was like thinking he must do something with like doctors. She was 16 or 17 at the time. And so she asked him, like, can I bring you these brain scans? Like, my mom is like sick. And, he takes her into his office one day when she comes over, brings the brain scans, and then literally, like, he tells her, you've got two options. And basically, it was like, you got to do whatever I want you to do, and I'll make sure your mom gets the best care. Or your mom, I'll make sure that I'll make sure the best anesthesiologist doesn't show up the day of her surgery or something like that. And I'm just like, I mean, just imagine being a kid and it's your mom and this man seems so powerful and he's literally exerting this power. That's how it happens. So I don't want anyone to ever question. And these people knew how to manipulate and they knew how to get the most vulnerable. And the final thing I'll say, because it was so much, is literally we have we have information that suggests that they even were setting up sham marriages, bringing girls from Russia, Ukraine, all kinds of stuff, like fake immigration paperwork, like like it's absolutely insane. And one of the reasons that the American people need to know is because they need to hold us accountable as lawmakers. Like our job isn't to actually prosecute people. That's not what we do. That's obviously for the Department of Justice. I don't really have a lot of high hopes that there will be additional prosecutions, even though usually when it comes to sex crimes, especially sex crimes of children, there's usually either no statute of limitation or it is a very long one, which is how you can end up with the Bill Cosby situation, right? So usually like there are ways to kind of get around it. That's not our job. Our job is to make sure then number one, our agencies are fortified and make sure that this level of corruption is not allowed to invade our departments, our federal departments, and that we have checks on that, as well as come up with legislation that will be a deterrent for bad actors, as well as legislation that will make sure that we're doing more for survivors. And so that is why it's so important that we do this. We find out what went wrong, where the loopholes are, and we do better.
Jasmine, there's a lot to unpack here. So let me just go right to it. A lot of the folks in the MAGA movement think there's a deep state that's running the country, that everybody else just kind of does what they do. It sounds to me what you're talking about here is you're talking about foreign governments. You're potentially talking about different federal agencies. You talked about, getting people into the country, false marriages. You talked about law enforcement, and I'll wrap this around with underage. Um, why would the Speaker of the House, which is third in line to the presidency, be so damn concerned about protecting a bunch of people that have been taking advantage of underage kids in the worst possible way? Is he part of the deep state?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
And he
I
wants to
have
protect himself? I mean, the Republicans control the House, Senate, and the presidency. Is this really? I mean, I never really bought into the deep state stuff, but maybe this is it. Maybe this is why they don't want it out.
I have no idea, but I will tell you that it was very clear um that so when I did a bunch of my criminal defense, I did, I was a public defender, I did court appointment work. So like I was dealing with people that were low level, like engaged in some of this like type of stuff, right? It is very clear that we're talking about people with a lot of money as well as power, because in this country, money is power, right? And so even when you think about the people that are frustrated, you know, let's talk in Citizens United, right? Because money buys seats all the time. And so I personally believe that this is about those people that are pulling the puppet strings for their puppets. Because listen, when you know, like I do, like serving in the House or the Senate, that's not really where the money is. Like, I mean, granted, we make more money than the average person and that kind of stuff or whatever. But like when you're starting to talk about like real money, when you're like, we're not millionaires like from our salary, right? Like we're not billionaires from our salary, but like those millionaires and billionaires do not want to be in these seats. They want to control the people in the seats,
Yep,
right? And
100%.
so this is clear to me that they are trying to protect people that most likely have been pulling their strings. That's the only thing that I can think of or conceptualize as to why they care, because I'm not stressed. Like I don't, and even if somebody that had donated to me is like in the Epstein files, I'm just gonna denounce them, right? Like I don't know. I don't know what is there. I don't really care. I think right is right, wrong is wrong. And to know that like literally this is something that to the best of our knowledge in the 90s was brought to our federal government and they did nothing. So to have somebody who endured this abuse as early as 94 sitting there talking to us, and then having somebody who endured it as late as 2008 that was sitting there, like, it's like, what in the, like, you
Right.
failed people for so long. You could have stopped this and you chose not to stop it. You had been given the information and you chose to ignore it. You chose to cover it up. And that is why it is so infuriating for me, because this is literally a lack of humanity. So don't tell me about Christianity. Don't tell me that you are all about protecting women. Don't tell me you care about kids, because I don't want lip service. I want action. And honestly, when I walked in to hear these women, they basically were like nervous because they were like, we've been let down so many times. So many times have people in power told us that they were going to look out for us and do right by us. And we are still suffering the trauma of those experiences, whether it is looking at their own children and being so nervous that somebody else is going to try to do that to them, whether it is never knowing if one of these powerful people has like employed somebody to harm them. Like, a lot of people are talking about Virginia because she literally committed suicide. And then we learned the name of another survivor who unfortunately seemingly took her life too, Sarah, right? So, like, we have to stop this. And granted, Epstein may be dead and gone, and Maxwell may be on her way out. Like, who knows? So, first of all, we all need to come together, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or a MAGA, right? And say to the president, you shall not pardon her. Like, do not play with us. Because it was very clear, and I fully understood why she was convicted after listening to these survivors. She was absolutely in the middle of all of this. She was right there dead center.
And I think we are going to hear there's a press conference, I mean, in less than an hour right now, that we are hearing that MTG will be at this press conference with Epstein victims alongside Representative Ro Khanna. He says it's going to be a bombshell press conference, and we're hearing that they might actually start naming some of the names of high profile people. What do you think of that? What do you know about that?
So I will tell you that I think hell froze over yesterday. MTG and I actually agree on something. I mean, breaking news. Okay, like, I mean, this is when it is deep, because she and I are on the same page. I will tell you that she seemed genuinely upset. She did. That was my perception, right? We will see if it's all backed up with actions. But one of the things that she specifically said was like, I want the names. She was like, I want the names. I want to call all these people out. Like, I want the names, right? And so, it's, and they did. They started naming like different people. These people, I would say, for the most part, of the names that were given yesterday, I had never heard of any of these people personally. So they are powerful in the sense that they have money and access, but like, it's not like she was out there like, this
Yeah.
celebrity did this or whatever. Like, that's not what. So ultimately, what will come out most likely from the names, because let me also tell y'all this was real wild. I don't know how many victims there are, right? But in my mind, I think the way that I played this out was that there were like always a bunch of girls like around, and it was like a bunch of them at a time. They literally thought they were the only ones. So, like, I don't know how they did this, but like, it wasn't so, like, literally, like, it'd be like, oh, this happened to me and I'm shamed. But they thought it was just them. They had no idea that like this was like being run. Like, they weren't all together. It wasn't a big group of them. And then another interesting thing is that like there was like some low level secretary or something like that. There was always like somebody that was like on staff who basically had been a victim as well, right? And moved up, I guess, to be enough to be like kind of like day to day. So like that person would know about all of what was
All of it.
on. But then like there would be somebody above that person who had never been a victim. So it was wild. So it was kind of mind blowing to some of them, because it's almost like, again, when you think about like the child predators, like they say, don't tell anybody, otherwise I'm gonna hurt your mom or I'm gonna hurt your dad. Or they talk about like the shame that will come with it. And oftentimes these young child victims, they feel as if this just happened to them and they feel like they did something, or they end up feeling like it's their fault in some way. And because there wasn't like a whole group of them like together, and they would all be kind of like differently done, they had no idea. They had no idea.
So, if it's okay with my co-host, what I will before we wrap this and go to another important topic, I would hope, Jasmine, that you're able to put enough pressure on the people that are part of the dark state that they will release the information. Deep
Yep.
state, I should say.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is that if these people uh, did bad things to kids, I don't give a damn how much money they have. I don't care what foreign government they're from. I don't care if they're involved in the judiciary or law enforcement or anybody else, or if they're a farmer. They should be held accountable. And
I
that's
agree.
and so hopefully you're able to do that. Um, let me ask you, is that okay, Maritza? She's the boss. Okay.
No, you're the boss. Go
No,
ahead.
no, hell no. I'm just a dirt farmer, outstanding in my field. So, Jasmine, let me ask you about military vehicles staging and before outside of Chicago and the military inside the city limits of DC. What do you think about all that stuff? Is it good? Is it bad? And why is it good or why is it bad?
I think it's terrible. First of all, I'm like, how is it that we have a government that is hostile towards its people? Because that's what it is. Like, I mean, we are in the midst of a hostile government takeover, and it is our government that is like bringing the hostility. So there's a couple of things. So like let me go into like my legal mode for 2 seconds because I don't think that the average person understands the training, right? So literally ICE is not trained to go out and do what they're doing. Same thing with our National Guard. Like you have a different type of designation because you have different training because your mission is different. And so local law enforcement, whether it's your local municipal police, your sheriff's deputies, your state troopers, they are trained completely differently. They are the ones that are trained in investigatory work. They are the ones that are trained on how to testify in trial, how to pull a case together. Same thing with like your FBI, your DEA, and that kind of stuff. Like, so they are straight up like law enforcement. This is what they do. They're the ones that deal with crime. And so that's that part of it, right? In addition to the fact that they are the ones that deal with crime, I want to be clear that like law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening per se. So that's number one. Number two, when you look at our armed forces, first of all, I have concerns about our readiness as we are not doing smart things with our allies. Okay. So I'm concerned about our readiness in general when we are taking those that signed up for the service in whatever capacity, and we are now putting them on the streets and having them with guns. They are not trained to deal with civilians in that way. That is not what they are trained to do. Like when you sign up for any military, you are a trained killer. You are trained for war, not for going and policing our streets. All right. So you got that part. And then the final part for me is I know that these guys don't believe in data, science, and facts, but they do matter. And the reality is that not only do we have the studies that show what typically perpetuates crime and how to reduce it or prevent it, but they're doing just the opposite in their policies. Number one, this big ugly bill has pulled back on a lot of the grants that would help law enforcement. There are some of those grants that go directly to law enforcement. They've pulled those monies back. There are mitigation and intervention grants that have been pulled back. In addition to, we know, and I don't want anybody to mistake what I'm saying, just because you are impoverished does not mean that you will be a criminal. But I do want to be clear that there is a direct link between poverty and um, susceptibility to having to engage in certain things. And this is something that I know up close and personal as a public defender. In fact, my elected prosecutor in Dallas County, he kind of caught some flack because he probably shouldn't have said it out loud. But he specifically said, if I get people that are getting charged with a low level misdemeanor for going and stealing food, diapers, like basic necessities because they literally can't afford it He's like,
out of
I'm just
desperation.
yeah, he's like, I'm not locking you up, right? Like, and granted, like, there is no good point in doing it because a decent defense attorney would have a defense, right? That there's a defense that we have on the book. So we, go and try the case, right? But like most people didn't understand. They're like, oh, he telling everybody to go steal. And I'm like, that's not what he was doing. But like, okay. And so I want people to understand that there are crimes that are committed not because people are criminals, but because they literally are trying to survive. Number one. Number two, the mental health crisis in this country is real as they are defunding mental health that they've never fully funded anyway, right? Because every time there's a shooting situation, they blame it on mental health. But then you ask them, well, what you doing about mental health? Like, where the money at? And they ain't got no answers for that, right? But also understanding addiction, which is something like I
Mhm.
will say, a lot of people look at me to be a very partisan person because I don't take shit. But the reality is this. Like, if you're shitty, I'm just going to give it back to you, no matter who you are. But my senior senator, John Cornyn, who is a Republican through and through, John Cornyn and I have actually worked on so much legislation as it relates to fentanyl, right? He legitimately like wants to work on fentanyl without saying, oh, it's the border, the border, the border, fentanyl, the border, right? Like we've worked on mitigation, we've worked on that kind of stuff. So I want people to also understand that when people are struggling with mental health crises, a lot of times they end up self-medicating. They don't understand what's happening, and then they end up self-medicating, and that is the only way that they really know how to survive. So there's so many layers to this, and I hate how a lot of times the GOP really tries to simplify it to the point that people pick up on this very simple kind of rhetoric that they put out there, but that's all it is this rhetoric. So don't buy into the games. This is actually making us more vulnerable. It is not solving anything. And he is specifically targeting cities that are led by African Americans, even though they have been able to start to kind of turn the tide. And frankly, in a time in which we just struggled with a school shooting, on the first day of school, we still don't want to have a conversation about guns in this country. And the reality is that if you look around this world, there is no other developed nation that has this problem with guns. So why can't we figure it out? Are Americans just too dumb? Like why can't we get it together, right? Like so, there are real issues for us to solve. Oh, and the final point. I'm sorry. I am going too long. Sorry. The
No,
final
we
point
love
cuz
it.
I get mad is that they tell us they don't have money. They're like, oh, we have to cut your health care. So we're taking $1 trillion out of the healthcare system, which means that whether you're on Medicaid, Medicare, or not, the cost of making sure you can stay alive is going up. That's number one. Same thing with SNAP benefits. You cut hundreds of millions of dollars for SNAP benefits, and they only get $6 a day to eat. But it's not even just those that are consuming the food. This means that this is being taken out of the ecosystem. So our farmers are put into a bind because they have to actually plan and plant based on what they absolutely believe the demand is going to be, and nobody knows what it is because now you're taking this money out, as well as grocery stores. So for those areas that are already looking at food deserts, right? So you're telling us you don't have money. You're like, listen, we're doing this because we want to like tighten up, even though, the debt ceiling has to be raised and all the things, right? But do you know how astronomically expensive this is? It is super expensive. So it's also not fiscally conservative whatsoever. It is wasteful, in addition to it being the definition of big government, which allegedly the Republicans don't like.
I would also add a couple things. Number one, you're taking away food security from people that makes them much more likely to commit crimes. Number one. Number two, the reason all this stuff was done was to give tax breaks to the not just the rich, to the uber rich. And so when people like Fox News say, well, that $200 million, $200 billion, whatever the goddamn many zeros are on it, golden ballroom they're building, there's no taxpayer money. Bullshit. They're getting their money back from those rich people that they gave this uber tax break to that they had to increase the national debt for, while they take away food and mental health care services from people who need it.
Absolutely.
If anybody says to me again, I don't vote because it doesn't affect my life, I'm going to have them listen to this conversation because you masterfully weave all of these things that are so interconnected. And I'm glad you said the part about addiction, Representative Crockett, because I used to cover addiction a lot. And 20 years ago, I was talking about meth like we talk about fentanyl today. And if it's not fentanyl, it's going to be something else. And we need to get to the root cause of that. Okay, I know you have to let us know when you need to leave because we're just going to keep going.
I'm gonna jump shortly. Judiciary
Mauricio
just started, but I'm gonna just tune into it and I'll get dressed.
So
Yeah.
Jasmine, Mauricio will keep you here all day long. And the
I
sad
will.
part about this is then I won't be able to do any farming, which is what the bottom line really is. It's not about listening to you, it's about screwing up my life. Okay. Here we go.
I mean, I want to talk about redistricting, but I also want to talk about what's going on with the president's health. So I mean, like,
I'll hit it real quick on both. So I don't know. Donald Trump's hand look like it's about to fall off. But no, in all seriousness though, I do think that we should have a reasonable conversation about what the 25th means and whether or not he is physically capable of serving, as well as I've already decided that he is mentally incapable, but clearly enough people are not listening to me when I say that he doesn't have the mental capacity. And I will tell you, but like, people think the things that he says are funny. It'd be funny if he wasn't president, maybe, right? But like, his weird paranoia is wild. In fact, the fact that we just got done talking about the fact that he's moving, the National Guard into all these cities and that kind of stuff, he has imagined emergencies for everything. He imagined we were in an economic emergency when we weren't. And so then he decided that he was going to institute these tariffs that have now actually thrown us into a tailspin. And if there's an emergency, it is the one that he created, right? Same thing when he decided for every single city that he wanted to, take over. He's imagining these emergencies. Same thing when he decided that he was going to invoke the Enemy Aliens Act and he said that we were somehow being invaded by Venezuelans. Like, he is mentally, and this is why this amendment matters. This is why you have to have a president that is competent and is in touch with reality, because they literally have so much power with being able to control an army, with being able to control all these federal agencies. The fact that he has created these emergencies and therefore he is going over the House and the Senate and he is doing everything in his own capacity as the executor. This is why it matters. That's number one.
I got to say one thing,
Yeah.
Jasmine. I got to say one thing. He's not going over the House and the Senate. The House and the Senate and the Republican leadership in both those bodies have laid down and let him walk over the top of them. Article 1 of the Constitution, they need to go read because it's important for checks and balances, and they are not following the Constitution of the United States, and all of them should forfeit their pay back to the general fund except for you.
So here's
touche. I'm gonna agree with that one too. And
here's the question though. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as his physical health, they have not been transparent. They only came out. Now, granted, I do want y'all to understand that we are currently investigating Biden's health in the House. Yeah, that hasn't been talked about a ton, right? I think that they've decided to back down just a little bit right now because of everything that's going on with him. But I've literally sat in depositions and transcribed interviews as it relates to them going after and harassing staffers on all levels about whether or not he was competent to use the auto pen and what did they know about his health. So we are currently investigating not the president's health, the former president's health, right? While the current president is visibly struggling more physically than the previous president. That is for sure. So only once, the swollen ankles and some other stuff that they say, oh yeah, he's got this condition. They did not tell us the severity of his condition. They just finally acknowledged it because they couldn't hide it. And now they're like, oh, yeah. He's been shaking too many hands because he loves the people. And so that's why his hand is bruised. It's like, bro, that doesn't normally happen. Like, we all politicians. You're
They
the only
did.
politician to ever have to deal with that. Like, stop it.
They
So,
did get his makeup. His makeup matched a little better though yesterday. I saw the makeup looked a little more blended. But I'm wondering, like, from your standpoint, let's say for some reason the president can't finish out his term, what would a Vance administration look like? Do you think that Congress would take back some of its power under a Vance presidency?
yeah, I do. I mean, because nobody is scared of JD Vance. Like, he's a loser. So, like, I mean, like, he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the connections. Now, I will tell you, let me back up about saying he doesn't have the connections. Because Peter Thiel and some others, for sure, he's, like, connected in with. But, like, MAGA doesn't follow JD Vance. Like, it's a cult. And if something happens to the cult leader, I just think that they'll be able to see things a little bit more clearly. So I don't see Vance. I know people are concerned because Vance is more intelligent. Like, he actually has like real degrees and he's more intelligent. And so there's something scary about like a smart version of Trump, but he can't be Trump. And I try to tell people that you have to treat Trump as a unique one off. And hopefully, we don't have to deal with another Trump. When I look at things like people are saying, oh, the Democratic brand, it's weak, it's this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. People don't understand that Trump is somebody that built a brand way before he ever ran for president. And it was almost impossible to break with the brand. Now, the brand is a con and a lie, right? But like when you say things to like everyday people, like, oh, he's racist. And then they're like, no, because he's got like pictures with all the black celebrities. Like, how can he be racist? Like, y'all just saying that because you're politicians. And it's like, actually, let me give you receipts if you care to like look at Central Park 5 and some other stuff. Like, let's talk about him and his daddy and how they were making sure that black folk couldn't have a place to live specifically because they were black. Like, I mean, it's tough. Or when you say, he's really not rich like that. They're like, no, you're a liar. Like, he's a great businessman and that's how he became rich. We've seen his name on buildings all over. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but he don't own those buildings. Like, he's just been a master manipulator, marketer, and grifter who is a Nepo baby. Like, that is just what it is, right? Like, so this idea that he's a good businessman, you say, but he filed for bankruptcy 6 times. And clearly he's trying to bankrupt the United States for a seventh. So, like, I mean, but people, it is hard for them to hear that about him. But you take somebody like a JD Vance that people have not known forever or whatever, when you start to say these things, you may be able to actually permeate
Mm.
versus when you're trying to do that against somebody who built a certain brand, whether it was on The Apprentice, firing people, looking like a boss, right? Like, it's tough to like undo what people are like, I've seen it with my own two eyes. And that is why he got away with things like fake news. Because there was a perception versus like the actual like real.
Okay, the last question before you get out of here. What gives you hope? As we move forward, a lot of people feel hopeless. They listen to this, they're commenting right now, what do we do? This is scary. What gives you, Representative Jasmine Crockett, hope?
It's the people. I still believe in the power of the people. Call me green. But it's the people. I mean, right now, and I guess this segues into the other thing. You had mentioned redistricting. And the way that I have seen people rise up in opposition of this, and the fact that he knows that the people are not with him to the extent that this is what he wants to do, it's the people. And so, in a democracy, the power always belongs to the people. And if you start to feel hopeless, then you will be powerless. And so I don't want people to lose hope. And I think about, this young junior senator out of Illinois that told people to just have a little bit of hope. And I was just on a panel with Al Sharpton and Ayanna Pressley, and I talked about how Obama really brought hope to the forefront. And Reverend Sharpton, in a very good Black minister way, was like, yeah, but when you run out of hope, you got to have a little faith. And that is what I am asking people to do. Is I'm asking people to be hopeful and look at this as an opportunity, because there are so many systems that have been broken, as we talked about the Epstein situation. This is an opportunity for us to rebuild and build back better. That is what we've got to do. We have to build something that is better fortified, because what he did is he exposed all the weaknesses in our democracy. And so we've got to do better. We've got to do better about fortifying our Supreme Court and making sure that they've got boundaries on them. There's so much opportunity if we just decide that we won't allow ourselves to be hopeless, but instead be hopeful and harness our power. So don't give it up, because they are doing everything that they can to take your power away, to take your voice away, whether it is a matter of going into the state in which Donald Trump has his biggest fan in Jasmine Crockett and deciding that he wants to re-engineer all of the seats because it just so happens to be where Jasmine is. But you can't get rid of me. If I want to go back to the house, I go back to the house. So, unlike the stories that have been out there about MAGA saying I got fired, I never got fired. Can't do
I
that.
saw that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in addition to that, I am truly grateful to the people that I serve. And so again, it is always about the people. The people that I serve are pissed. They are mad, and they're like, we don't care what they do. You are going to be our representative. We are going to have your back. And so people are, willing to knock doors and make phone calls and do all the heavy lifting to make sure that I get back, even if I won't be their representative, because there's so many people that feel like I am their voice, even though they can't elect me. So please, please, please don't lose your hope, because you are the hope. I'm not looking for a savior in the form of an individual, as people keep saying, who's going to come and save us? Who is our leader? It's up to us. It's up to us to save us. Stop waiting for somebody else. So the people for me.
Well said. That's where the power should be, is with the people.
Yeah.
And that's good. They need that. The only thing I would add is they need to continue to be outspoken and give input, especially to elected folks that serve in Congress.
Yeah. We
Well,
miss you.
Good to have you on. Good luck. Good
Good to
luck in
see you.
judiciary. We're going to be tuning in to C-SPAN to watch you rip and tear.
That's right. Representative Jasmine Crockett. Wow, what a conversation this was. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back and join us again sometime.
Absolutely. Great to see both of you.
Yeah,
Good to
take
see
care.
you.
Be well. Stay healthy.
Hey. Wow. We covered a lot, but also not. Like, my list has a lot more questions, including asking what her skincare routine is, as my friend Amy wanted me to ask her.
Well, I know you had to be incredibly frustrated, because I know you've got at least 30 or 40 more questions to ask her that you never got to.
I know, but she did a good job of covering so much in her answers. I mean, and
Yeah.
really, Epstein is what everyone's talking about again. They thought they could make it go away, but it's back. It is
I mean,
back. And then,
truthfully, we could have talked about Epstein for the entire show. I mean,
yeah,
I just thought we had to move on. Otherwise, we were going
no,
to
for
talk
sure.
about Epstein for the entire show. So,
For sure. We barely talked about redistricting.
yeah.
She's involved in that, and she said that Democrats need to meet the moment. Okay, so I also wanted to ask about her political future, what she wants to do.
Yeah,
Um,
she's young. We'll have her on in a while. In the
yeah,
future, that'll
yeah.
be more fleshed out. I think the truth is she did talk about the gaps in our democracy, but I'm going to tell you, not to beat this horse because that's about dead. Uh, but those gaps in our democracy are brought about entirely by a Congress that is not doing their job. Absolutely. I mean, the courts have some issues themselves, and I don't want to let them off the hook because they've done some stupid goddamn things. But Congress has not been there. Watch and see what they do on this funding bill for the government that runs out the end of this month. They're just going to do whatever the executive branch wants. No thought, no nothing. You want to talk about mental health, you want to talk about food for folks who need help, then you want to talk about heating for folks who need help with their heating bill. All that shit's going to be thrown out the window, and it's about the people who put them in office. And that's exactly leads us back to Epstein. But anyway, that's
It's all
It's
related,
just
though. It's all
my
related.
my my 2.5 cents. How's that? Not even 2
Okay.
bucks.
Before we get to your hat, I want to give a big congratulations to friend of the show, Senator Cory Booker, who announced his engagement yesterday. I know he's not a friend of yours, but he's a friend of the show.
Yeah, well, I sent Nikki a little text yesterday, and I said, "Congratulations on the engagement. Now you can move to Hawaii and run against shots." And he came back and said he's going to move to Montana and run. And I said, "Great,
Oh,
I'll endorse your opponent. It'll be a shoe-in for you in Montana." So, we've had our words, but that's
good.
Booker. I've got a question for you. This is episode what?
48.
Yeah, and what is
Can you
today?
believe it? September 3rd.
Yeah, but what's important about that date? This is a very important date, by the way.
This is your wedding anniversary?
Yeah, and guess which anniversary it is?
48.
You got it. You got it.
Hey,
Yeah.
congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, well, it's a hell of a woman that'll live with me for 48 years. I'll just tell
No
you.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, though, what's your secret? Give everyone your secret to 48 years of marriage.
I just gave it. A hell of a woman that will live with
Oh,
me
it's
for
all
48
Charla.
years. It's all Charla. Yep. Yeah, she's an incredible person. But at any rate, and which we should have her on the show sometime, but you
Well, I
refuse to
want
invite her.
to.
You
Are you
want?
kidding me? Don't listen. I thought you could trust John Tester. You can't. He's
I
full of
I
it.
thought I thought maybe we could have her and Steve Cyber on at the same time.
I'd love that. And
My
maybe Jeff Ament too. Like all of
my
Big
my best
Sandy's
buddy
legends.
my best buddy from childhood, the woman I've spent my life with, and we'll get Eamon in just to add a little bit of culture. You know what I mean?
They have all the dirt on John Tester. Those three together, I mean, you'd be toast. You would be toast. Yeah, well, happy anniversary. We would love to have Charlotte on. People ask me all the time if we can get her to come on and do like a cooking segment because she is like a legendary cook and baker, I
She
hear.
she can cook. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
What's your hat say? Let's
The how I wish
be
I could tell you what the acronym stands for. But what
it's
it
a
is it's a community health center in Hardin, Montana. Okay. HC stands for Health Center.
hold on,
I can't
BVHC in
I can't
Hardin,
say it's a
Montana.
BV something
How
Valley.
about Bighorn Valley? How about
Yeah.
Bighorn Valley
Bighorn
Health?
Valley Health Center in Hardin, Montana. Great outfit, provides great health care. I hope they're still open. I hope they haven't been defunded. Good outfit.
Yeah, we need to do another episode about this whole thing and what's going to happen with the future of our healthcare. Because I had somebody come up to me at a soccer game and told me some really scary things about what insurance rates are about to do this fall. So we will go down that road in a different episode. We want to thank everybody for being here. On Friday, we will be live with Miles Taylor. You have something to say? You're
Well, I
shaking
mean,
your
it's what
fist.
happens when you put all your focus on the people who don't need the help. The rich people don't need tax breaks. They don't need this help. And we're increasing our national debt and we're taking away services from the poor. We're taking away services from the middle class. We're taking away mental health care. We're taking away general health care. The list goes on and on and on. And I don't know when the folks out there who believe that Trump, and I say this honestly, is the second coming to God, which doesn't say very much for God. If you got a guy that womanizes and doesn't watch his money and all that shit. But the truth is that this is what happens when you don't pay attention to the people who need help and you give all your attention to the people who don't need any help. And this is what happens. Sorry, but
No, it's a really good point, and we have not seen the end of it. Not to mention all the tariff stuff and our economy, and we didn't even get into the court stuff over tariffs. I'm not even sure what's happening with that, so we're going
and
to
I'm
watch that.
still waiting for $1.97 gas prices. By the way,
Wow, hope you've got some time on your hands. Keep waiting.
I will.
Um, Okay, Friday, we will be on live on Substack with Miles Taylor at noon Eastern, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And then we have a couple things lined up for the week after. So we will let you know. We want to thank everybody for being here with us. So much to our guest, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Just, wow, she covered so much. Such a smart lady. We want to, what else? I'm lost here. You can find us here on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. You can email us at groundedpcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our friends at Pearl Jam for letting us use their music, and to all of you, our listeners and our viewers today. Hey, we almost hit 2,000 live viewers on this. That's great. Thank you so much.
Tally ho.
Tally ho.